Um, Let me take you to early 1900s, exploring the Himalayan regions so remote that when different expeditions measured the same mountain pass, their readings varied by 1,000 feet. That's exactly what was happening in the Himalayas in the late 1920s, when some of the most ambitious scientific expeditions in history were pushing into uncharted territory.
You know what fascinates me about that era? These weren't just adventurers. They were serious scientists collecting data we still use today.
Take Dr. Trinkler's expedition. They discovered evidence that the entire Tibetan plateau was once covered by an enormous ice cap. When that melted, it created massive alpine lakes where we now see nothing but desert.
Hmm. How did they figure out the timing of those ancient climate changes?
Well, they found these incredible layers in the desert valleys, alternating bands of sand and clay showing repeated cycles of wet and dry periods. They even discovered dead poplar trees buried in clay, proving major flooding happened after the 8th century AD.
That's exactly the kind of precise dating that makes these expeditions so valuable to modern climate science.
And speaking of precision, Admiral Linus's bird expedition collected over 1,100 specimens and 450 eggs. But what's really impressive is how they adapted when things went wrong. When the Admiral had to leave early for medical reasons, the team just kept going.
You know, that resilience seems to be a common thread. Like Dr. Filchner conducting magnetic surveys alone across Central Asia for 2 years.
Right. And get this, he established 95 magnetic observation stations between Tashkent and Koko Nor, all while navigating relationships with Chinese warlords and dealing with extreme conditions.
The logistics of these expeditions must have been incredible. How did they manage transportation in such difficult terrain?
Um, that's actually one of the most interesting aspects. When Dr. Trinkler's expedition lost most of their yaks crossing the high plateaus, they switched to using sheep as pack animals. Just 2 men could manage 70 sheep, each carrying up to 30 pounds.
So they were basically inventing new ways to explore as they went along.
Exactly. And then you have the McCallums attempting to drive from Peking to London in 1927. They spent 18 months just planning the route, only to have political unrest force them to completely change their plans.
Well, that must have been incredibly frustrating after all that preparation.
But here's what's amazing. They adapted. When they couldn't go through Mongolia, they shipped their cars to Indochina. When floods blocked their path, they detoured through Malaya. They still managed to cover 15,200 miles by car.
Like you said earlier, resilience seems to be the key theme here.
And you know what's really striking? How these expeditions built on each other's work. The Italian Karakoram expedition actually sent an advance team a year ahead to set up supply depots. They were learning from previous expeditions' mistakes.
That collaborative aspect really changed how exploration was done, didn't it?
Absolutely right. And it's still influencing science today. The data they collected about glaciation, climate cycles, and magnetic fields is still relevant to modern research. They weren't just filling in blank spaces on maps. They were laying the groundwork for our understanding of global climate patterns.
Looking back, what do you think was their most lasting contribution?
I'd say it was their comprehensive approach to scientific observation. Whether they were studying birds, magnetic fields, or ancient lake beds, they recorded everything in incredible detail. They showed us that real exploration isn't just about reaching new places. It's about understanding them deeply.
That's quite a legacy for expeditions that happened almost a century ago.
And here's what's really remarkable. Some of their questions about climate cycles and geological changes are the same ones we're still trying to answer today. They weren't just ahead of their time. They were helping to shape our future.